Yeah. Right, guys, here we are. Welcome to another episode of Watch I Bought. And it's been a while since we've done one of these. I think the last one we did was the AP Disco Volante. And this week we've got one that I'm super excited about. It is the F P Journe Elegante 48 in titanium. Let's get into it. So, the F P Journe Elegante. My relationship with this watch goes back years. This was a watch that some of you in London might remember William & Son. And William & Son were in Mayfair, and they were part of the Asprey lineage owned by William Asprey. And they had this incredible collection of independent watches. In many ways, they were well ahead of their time, because had they still been around, they went out of business 3-4 years ago now, but had they been around in the last year or two, they would have done brilliant work. And I think the issue was he was the one that was spending all the money every month, and they weren't really selling their F P Journes, their Laurent Ferriers, their De Bethunes, their Maurice Grossman, their Ludwig Bellois, all of these incredible manufacturers that we now know and love. And one of the watches that caught my eye early on was this. And believe it or not, I used to go in and see them a lot. I was literally like a bad smell there. I was hanging around like a bad smell, trying to take photos, trying to write about some of the watches, trying to support them anyway, in the hope that maybe there might be a cheeky discount in there for me down the line. Unfortunately, that was never the case. But this watch used to sit there, and along with the Chronometre Bleu, this watch was sort of just shy of 10 grand, so I think maybe 9 grand at the time. And it used to just sit there, and no one really was picking them up. And the Chronometre Bleu was, I think, sort of 13, 14 grand. And these stories, we hear them a lot, but they were genuinely there collecting dust. And what I loved about this watch was the shape of the case. So we know that Journe has done the Vagabondage collection in a mechanical variation of this case shape, but to me, this case is just so special. This is one of the designs I associate with F P Journe. The reason this is or I think is an interesting conversation, because I've had it now for a couple of weeks, and I've had the chance to wear it, and I've had the experience of owning it. It's an interesting watch because it's super punchy price-wise, and I'm going to try and defend that in the chat today. And it's also really, really hard to get. I've never bought a watch in the secondary market before. In fact, no, that's not true. I have bought many watches in the secondary market. I've never bought a watch in the secondary market that's been way above retail. In fact, I've never bought a watch that's been above retail in the secondary market before until now. So this came from Tim at Subdial, as so many of my watches have done over the last few years. And you know what? It was a combination of two things. I was intrigued by the watch. They had one in stock. I'm always intrigued to see what they've got in stock, because the variation is the flow of new watches coming in is interesting. And I had two watches that I wanted to part with. So one of them was, and I may get some stick in the comments underneath for this one, but one of them was the Octo Finissimo, the Tado Ando. This is not the video to defend that watch, but wow, what an incredible watch. And I will have an Octo Finissimo again, but the issue I had with it was, even for my wrist, I felt that it was just slightly too big. 40mm, but wore so much bigger. And if they were to come out with a 38, which to me would wear more like a 40, I would be all over that like a rash. So basically, I wanted to part exchange that watch, full set. And as well as that, I had a Breguet, I had a classique 38mm white gold dress watch. Beautiful, but just a little bit too formal. I love mixing formal watches with informal watches. Formal watches with informal attire, as you can see. But in that instance, it was just a step too far. And so basically, I traded those two wonderful mechanical watches plus a little bit of cash. It's a lot to digest for this beauty, and the minute I got it on the wrist, and much like I'm always saying this, but it's much like relationships. You know straight away whether it's a good thing or not, and immediately when I put it on the wrist, I loved it. So what did I love? I loved the font that he's chosen, which is classic Journe. The way it's printed on this circular central dial, or oval shape central dial. Of course, the logo. Again, people don't talk about logos enough, but the typography, the design, the proportions that he's used for the logo are fantastic. The internal track that he's got going around that internal dial, I absolutely love, with the seconds, the hours on the inside, the seconds on the outside. Even the sub dial perfectly lined up for the sub seconds at 6 is just fantastic. The little hook on the sub-seconds ticking away. Blued hands. The hands, of course, are just majestic. I mean, those are amazing. I must admit, having worn it now for a few weeks, you sometimes get a little bit confused about what's hour and what's minute because they're actually not entirely dissimilar. But the way they're designed, the blue, it looks almost purple in different lights, is amazing. And then, of course, the central dial lights up. It's got this incredible lume, and it really blows up in a way that I've never seen a dial, quite frankly, blow up before. It's not a dive watch, but my God, it would be a fantastic dive watch if it had a slightly greater depth rating. But that's a side note. Of course, then at 4 o'clock we've got this this motion sensor, this rotor. Now, what that is, I'll come to why that's important, but that's a part of the design which for some would cause a problem. Imagine if that were a date window, that would cause serious controversy. But to me, I actually love the fact that it's there because it's a reminder that while it's a quartz watch, there is a mechanical element, there is a motion element. There's more to it than just what you'd expect from a standard quartz watch. That's for sure. Then you've got the actual architecture within the dial itself, the way that these actually segregated the frame that holds the oval dial itself in the center is amazing. These little screws that hold it in, the 4 screws that hold it in into quarters, and I just love it. I just absolutely love it. There's so much to see on the dial. It really comes alive. Then you've got the case, which is beautifully brushed. You can see the brush finish. It does come in the Titanite variation, now no longer in the white dial. They've discontinued as of this year the Titanite with the white dial, and they've brought the black dial. You might have seen it, Watches and Wonders. To me, this is the one I've always liked because this feels more old school watch versus really sort of avant-garde material innovation. I wanted something. If I was going to push the envelope out and go quartz, I wanted it to feel more traditional in its design, and that's what I think you get here. Although in titanium, you've got polished edges, brushed top, brushed flanks, and then polished lug flanks. So you've got all sorts of different finishes going on, which again adds wonderful intrigue on a daily basis. And yeah, that's the case. Really interesting case shape as well. I'm not sure exactly how you describe it. Torno shape, but beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then you come to the buckle. The buckle is just fantastic. I mean, talk about quality. It's just, you know, it's those stupid things as an owner that you come to that you're like, wow, that feels great. I love the logo. I love in fact, we should do a series on buckles and brand logos because there's so many different variations, and I love this Journe one. Really, really comfortable. You then come to the strap, multiple different coloured straps available. I remember actually interviewing William Asprey years ago for the Gents Journal, and he had this incredible collection of watches. In fact, in his office upstairs at William & Son, the vault safe from floor to ceiling, he had everything. And he said to me, you know what, this is the watch, and he whipped out with a white strap. He said, this is the watch I've worn more than anything because it is so comfortable. You can wear it on holiday. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't cause undue attention. I personally have loved wearing it around town because you're not going to damage anything mechanical jarring it. So super comfortable. Comes in a whole bunch of different straps. The strap is a quick change strap. It's got the FPJ logo inside for sweat and comfort, and it's just a wonderful strap. One of the best out there. Super comfortable. This one is too small for me, so I am in the market to get a new one. But as hard as it is to get a bloody watch from them, it's even harder to get a strap. So yes, what's going on the inside? So you've got this incredible finish on the movement inside, the quote unquote movement. So originally the design was for women, came in a slightly smaller package in 2013ish, I think. No, 2013. Yeah, 2013. He went to, let's just double check that. Let's just make sure that is right. 2013. I'm pretty sure it is. He was Francois Paul. Sorry, he was actually on a trip in 2003. Forgive me. And he met with some clients of his in the Middle East, and the wives were the one that asked for a design that would speak to them, and that's where the Elegante came from. It took many years, 5, 6, 7 years, to develop this quartz that he felt would be the first luxury quartz watch ever designed, which I entirely agree with now. The finishing is of the same level as you would expect from one of his mechanical watches. You've got this beautiful Geneva striping, you've got the logo, you've got the manufacturer caliber there. It was also developed with a third party in Geneva, and as you'd imagine, as you know, Mr. Journe, just the obsessiveness. I think he really pushed them on something that would be amazing and groundbreaking and industry setting, and that's what we've got here. It's in rose gold. You've got the electric elements leading up to a heart just on the top left there, which I thought was quite nice, a small little heart. Ultimately, just a very, very beautiful thing. So while you're wearing quartz, you're still admiring the finishing, which to me, that's what watchmaking is actually finishing, not necessarily complexity in the movement, not necessarily complexity on the dial, but the finishing of a movement. And I think you get that here. So that sort of leads me on to the philosophical point about the watch is, number one, am I okay with having spent the sort of money that I spent? Because these days, and I spoke to my friend who's working at Journe about the retail price, and the retail price now is 16,000 Swiss, which is 14,000 GBP, £14,000 for a quartz watch from Journe, and probably one where you're likely not to get it as the first watch. So they make 800 watches a year, and they have a whole bunch of locations around the world, including one coming to London soon. So you can just imagine how few watches come through the door. If you're someone who's wanted one of these, probably the majority of people who've wanted one of these, £14,000 now, it's a lot of money, and you're likely not going to be getting this as your first watch from them. So philosophically, I'm okay with the money that's been spent on it. I am. It's the one watch that I said to a friend yesterday, it doesn't make any sense. The whole purchase of it just doesn't make sense. This came out before, by the way, the John Mayer hysteria of the last few weeks. But I have not taken the damn thing off. I've even slept in the damn thing, and that says a lot. Like a relationship, that means things are getting serious. So I've loved wearing it. I haven't taken the damn thing off, and simply because of that, I would say it's been okay philosophically, emotionally speaking to me. I'm almost convinced, although I'll be on a video at some point in here again talking about how I've sold it, but I'm convinced that actually it's a keeper. And to me, it's the start, hopefully, of a journey into Journe in some way, although hopefully not at secondary prices. Then it comes to the philosophical element of the quartz part. I mean, I'm thinking about the important quartz watches of the watch world, and I'm thinking about Piaget and the Mecca quartzes, Piaget, the Pateks, the IWCs of the 70s. That project really was an important phase in trying to sustain the watch industry in the 70s and compete with the quartz from Seiko and others. But today I think there's been a rise in interest in quartz, and certainly the Beta 21 series is important, and it's a watch I'd love to have one day. A stone dial Piaget Beta 21 would be amazing. But alongside Beta 21, you then think of this development, and I think we're moving away from the snobbiness, a bit like in-house calibers. I think we're moving away from that now. There is joy to be had in quartz, and it's manifest for me in the wearability. I'm proud to wear the thing. I think it says something about me from a design perspective. I think it's really interesting. I wear it to cycle around town. I wear it to run in, to train in sometimes, and I would never do that with any mechanical watch. So for those reasons, and the comfort and the accuracy, and we haven't talked yet about the technical element of it, which is that if you put the watch down, and this is why it took so long for this caliber to be developed, is that if you leave it 30 to 35 minutes, it switches itself off, it goes to sleep. You then pick it up, and it sets itself to the time that to the accurate time where you are, or based on where you've been when you put it down, and it sets itself to the quickest point possible, so the hands move around and come back to where it needs to be in the quickest possible time. So those little things, you pick it up in the morning, you pick it up and you see that happening, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. That gives you something, that gives you joy beyond just a mechanical watch. And it's not actually in replacement of anything. It's just an addition to. So I love wearing the Lange 1 as well. I love wearing the Vacheron 9021, of course. I love the AP. So they give you something different. They all give you something different. This fits in a slightly different way. It's almost a non-compete in that respect. But I absolutely love it. And the wearability has just been exceptional. I've loved wearing the damn thing. And to be honest, if it gives you a buzz in the morning and you love wearing it, then what more could you ask? That, ladies and gents, is a week or two on the wrist and the Why I Bought episode for my new F P Journe Elegante 48 in titanium. Thank you very much, as always, for joining. And please, God, leave some comments below.